We will next be examining weighted voting systems. Within a democracy, there is an ideal of equality, one person equaling one vote, like many of the examples we looked at in Chapter 1. But is the principle of one person equaling one vote always justified? Is it always fair? Must it apply when the voters are something other than individuals? They're organizations or states or countries or shareholders of a company. Is it fair that someone that has 40% of the company has the same amount of say over the company as someone that only owns 3% of the company? So this leads us into, in a diverse society, it is the very nature of things that voters are not equal. And sometimes it's desirable to recognize differences by giving different amounts of say over the outcome of an election. This is the exact opposite of one voter equaling one vote, like what we looked at in Chapter 1. In Chapter 2, what we'll be looking at is one voter equaling X amount of votes, which X is a variable that can represent any number. And this is formally known as the weighted voting system. Now, this is how we show the weighted voting system and how it's notated. Notice they use brackets here. The first number that will be listed, it's a letter right now, is Q, the quota. That's how many votes are needed for a motion to pass. There's a colon. After the colon are the weights of the particular players in the voting system. This is the weight of player 1. Player 1 has the most weight in the weighted voting system. And then this is the weight of player 2, which would be the next highest weight, and so on until you get to the person with the least amount of weight in the voting system. Okay, we're going to look at an example of how to set up a weighted voting system. Here is an example dealing with the Clackamas County Board of Supervisors. The table below shows this table right here. The table below shows all the districts in Clackamas County and their votes in the County Board of Supervisors in 1990. Suppose the quota was set at 60% or more. A. Find the value of N. N equals the total number of players in the weighted voting system. So if you see here in this table, there is a variety of districts and their corresponding weights. N is the amount, the number of players. So we just need to write how many players there are in this weighted voting system. If you can see here, Lake Oswego would be 1, Clackamas would be 2, Westland is 3, Oregon City is 4. Notice this comma right here. That separates two different districts, okay? And then Milwaukee is 5, Gladstone is 6, and Sherwood is 7. So N equals 7. There's a total number of 7 players in this weighted voting system. So that's the answer for Part A. For Part B, what we need to do is we need to find the value of V. The symbol V equals the total number of votes. And what we do to find the total number of votes is we just add up all of the players' weights. So there's 7 players in this weighted voting system. So we need to add up all 7 of those weights. So here, 30 is Lake Oswego, 28 is Clackamas, 22 is Westland, and then another 22 for Oregon City because they both have a weight of 22. And then lastly, Milwaukee gets 2, Gladstone gets 2, Sherwood gets 2. When we add all those up, V equals 108. That means there's 108 votes in this weighted voting system. For Part C, what we need to do is describe this weighted voting system using the standard notation. Okay, so now we're actually going to put this information into the weighted voting system standard notation. The first thing that we need to identify is the quota. So you find in the example it said that the quota was set at 60% or more votes. So to figure this out, the quota equals 0.60. That is 60% in the form of a decimal. times the total number of votes, which is 108. When we multiply that out, what it gives us is 64.8. And you can't have 0.8 of a quota, so you have to round that up. So what that means is that our quota is 65. Now that we know our quota, we can set up the weighted voting system. Remember, we use brackets here. The quota goes first. We have 65. It's followed by a colon. And then you just list the player's weight, starting with player 1. Lake Oswego's weight would be player 1 because it has the highest weight. So it would be 30, comma, player 2 would be Clackamas because it has the next highest weight, which would be 28. And then we would have West Linn for 22 and Oregon City for 22. Two of them have 22. And then finally Milwaukee, Gladstone, and Sherwood for 2, 2, and 2. And that would be the final answer. That's how you set up the weighted voting system.